Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the source material to uncover something pretty wild. We're going to look at how ancient philosophical blueprints literally built the classrooms you sat in your entire life. Seriously, we're talking about the master architects of thought who completely shaped our educational reality.
But first, take a second and think about this. Where did your knowledge actually come from? Like, did it come from a formal classroom with a teacher standing at the front of the room? Or maybe it came from a parent teaching you how to cook or, ride a bike? Or did you learn simply by just experiencing life itself?
Okay, let's dive into this, because there are actually three distinct forms of education we all experience. First up, there's formal education. This is the one we know super well, right? It's hierarchically structured in schools, you pay fees, you follow a strict syllabus, and you're taught by trained professionals. Then we have informal education. This is lifelong, natural learning. There are no specific timetables, no exams, and really no conscious effort. It's like a parent teaching a child their mother tongue, or you just picking up a new habit by, well, living. Finally, there's non-formal education. This one is flexible, deliberate skills training. Think adult literacy programs or learning a new vocational trade entirely outside of a strict school system.
Now, to figure out how all these systems were built, we have to look at the main tool used to build them, and that is philosophy. The word itself comes from the Greek words philo, meaning love, and sophia, meaning wisdom. So it literally translates to the love of wisdom. But listen, it is not just some dusty history. It is a persistent, ongoing effort to make sense of life. There's actually a really fascinating detail from our sources here. In traditional African societies, a wise person isn't just someone with a ton of formal schooling. No, to be considered truly wise, a person has to know the traditional practices and customs of their people, but crucially, they also have to think critically and deeply about the world around them. It's an active quest.
So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. Defining education and philosophy. 2. The branches of philosophy. 3. The ancient architects. And 4. The modern innovators. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Defining education and philosophy.
Getting a grip on these core definitions is absolutely crucial because it lays the entire groundwork for understanding our social structure. Education is defined as the gradual process of acquiring knowledge, which brings positive changes in human life and behavior. And I really want to emphasize that education isn't just about, passing a bunch of tests or framing a certificate. It is a fundamental method of social progress and personal transformation. It's literally the engine that drives society forward by molding human behavior for the better.
Section 2. The branches of philosophy.
Now, if education is the engine, philosophy is the mechanical blueprint. What's really interesting about this is that there are 7 major branches of philosophy: metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, logic, axiology, political philosophy, and aesthetics. I know, when you hear those massive academic words, they can sound completely intimidating. But honestly, they are simply the fundamental questions of human existence. Metaphysics just asks, what is reality? Epistemology asks, how do we actually know things? Ethics wants to figure out right from wrong. Logic is all about reasoning. Axiology is the study of our values. Political philosophy asks, what makes a government just? And aesthetics simply asks, what is beauty? See? These are questions every single one of us asks.
And if you're sitting there wondering, okay, so what? Why do these ancient branches even matter today? Well, just look at their modern applications. Logic provides the absolute foundation for computer science, programming, and AI. It's a real game changer. Epistemology is the backbone of how we validate modern scientific theories. Ethics gives us the moral foundation for our legal systems and corporate business standards. And aesthetics? It dictates the architecture of the buildings we live in and the design of the products we buy every day. So yeah, these philosophical branches are actively building your modern reality right now. Let's bridge the gap between those abstract philosophical blueprints and the historical master builders who actually use them. We're going to take a little time travel trip, starting in 470 BC with Socrates, moving to 428 BC with Plato, fast-forwarding way ahead to 1632 AD with John Locke, and finally arriving in 1859 AD with John Dewey.
Section 3. The ancient architects. Let's step back in time to ancient Greece to meet the absolute first revolutionaries of our educational system. We've got to start with Socrates, who lived around 470 BC. Socrates is an incredible protagonist in this story. Back in his day, there were these traveling teachers called the Sophists, and they taught that truth was just based on human perception. Basically, if it feels right to you, then it is right. Well, Socrates argued passionately against this relativity. He firmly believed that reason is the universal source of truth, not mere physical perception. He taught that virtue is knowledge. He believed a person literally cannot act rightly unless they first know what right is. So all wrongdoing, according to Socrates, simply springs from ignorance. So the crucial question here is, how do we actually seek this knowledge? Well, Socrates didn't write books. He just talked to people. He passed on his ideas by skillfully asking leading questions. It's a technique known as the dialectic method. By forcing his students to answer these carefully structured questions, he helped them uncover truths that were actually already stored up in their own minds. Think about that for a second. This method of question and answer remains one of the most incredibly effective tools in classrooms around the globe today. It's wild.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the ideas of Socrates were formalized by his most famous student, Plato. Plato basically took the pursuit of wisdom and gave it a physical structure. He built a school in Athens called the Academy. It had the whole shebang, a dormitory, a secondary school, and a higher school. This was literally the first establishment of an organized school in the world. Plato believed in state control of education to make sure everything was properly organized. And that idea created the very first structural blueprint for the universal state-controlled education systems, complete with directors and supervisors, that we all still navigate right now.
Section 4. The Modern Innovators.
All right, now let's fast forward to the modern era to see exactly how this ancient educational blueprint was updated and reformed by European and American thinkers. Enter the British philosopher John Locke in the 1600s. Locke brought a highly individualized view to the table. Actually, he had a pretty controversial pushback against one-size-fits-all public schools. He believed that mixing boys in public schools risked spoiling good character because teachers just couldn't give them enough individual attention. Instead, Locke advocated for a process that really toughened up the child. He argued that mental achievement just cannot be enjoyed without physical health, pushing hard for the production of a sound mind in a sound body.
Moving over to America in the 19th and 20th centuries, we meet John Dewey. Dewey was a pragmatist, and he completely rejected strict authoritarianism in the classroom. He believed that an acceptable method of teaching should be super activity-oriented to help kids develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills. He championed things like the experimental method, the playway method, the excursion method, and the project method. Dewey essentially brought learning to life by focusing on a child-centered approach, and guess what? This is exactly why we have school field trips, group projects, and hands-on experiments today. He really hit the nail on the head.
Dewey had this profound realization that entirely shifted how we view schools. He defined education as the reconstruction of experience. He strongly believed that a school isn't just some waiting room where you sit around and prepare for the real world. No, education is a process of living itself. A school is a vital community, an active part of life right now, and it adds meaning to your experiences as they are happening.
Which brings us to our final thought. If, as Dewey said, education is truly life itself, then the classroom is quite literally everywhere. So how is your everyday experience shaping your ongoing philosophical education? Every conversation you have, every problem you solve, every single challenge you face is part of a continuous, unfolding pursuit of wisdom. You really are the architect of your own thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep asking those big questions, and we'll see you next time.